Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 134. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess. I am your host and virtual wealth and mindset coach. I do work with many women who are running their online service-based businesses on both the mindset aspect of their work and when it comes to money mindset especially, but also just like business mindset in general, as well as the nitty-gritty management of their business and personal finances. It is my love. It is my passion. I love helping them grow their businesses in such a way that is really profitable and scalable and is just, feels really good and has them infused with confidence on all that jazz. So that's what I do when I'm not recording a podcast episode. But today we have a solo show. I am live inside of the Wealthy Entrepreneur group. So if you're listening and technically you are listening to this 2 weeks after it was originally recorded. So if you get inside the Wealthy Entrepreneur Facebook group, I am now starting to do these live recordings even further ahead of time. And so you can get access to these episodes and, kind of live trainings way before they get posted on the podcast, which is a great benefit. You can also come and watch it live and interact with me, ask me questions. Otherwise, be able to watch the show, before they're up on the podcast and comment and leave your questions even after they are recorded live. So also, if you just like to digest stuff from a video point of view and see my face as I record these episodes, there's another benefit. So you can get into The Wealthy Entrepreneur by going to Facebook and just typing in The Wealthy Entrepreneur. There's a couple questions that I have just to get to know you a little bit better, and then I will get you inside of the group. So today, in this solo show, we're going to be talking about business structures. Specifically the difference between a sole proprietorship, an LLC, and an S corporation. That's kind of the extent of my knowledge. I know there's more types of corporations beyond that. And for small businesses, I think these are the most appropriate to discuss. I find that it is really important to know what your business structure is and make sure you get it set up. But I also find that that's a big paralyzing fear for a lot of people in starting their business and doing it because they're like, well, I need to make sure I'm doing it right and I don't really understand all this stuff. And so it holds them back from actually taking action and doing things that are going to bring them money. And I will say that this is important, but what is even more important is that you are taking action on the revenue generating activities of your business also. So as much as I think it's important to do all of the stuff so that your taxes are taken care of and you have everything structured appropriately, don't let that hold you back from taking action in creating income in the first place. There's not really, I don't want you to think of I need to do one before I can do the other type of thing. I need to make money so that I can structure my business, or I have to structure my business so that I can make money. You can do these simultaneously, especially as you're just getting started. And for some of you, you might already have your business, already be making money. And now you're wondering how should I go about this whole business structure thing? Is there benefits and value to doing, going from, if you haven't done anything, you're probably defaulted as a sole proprietor. Is there value and benefits to moving up the chain and, filing an LLC or setting up an S corporation? And yes, but it depends. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the differences. I'm going to share, to the extent of my knowledge, which I do heavily think that you should definitely reach out to a tax professional and a legal advisor so that you can get personalized advice on which structure to set up. But I'm going to share, to the best of my knowledge, your legal protections and your tax advantages as well when, thinking about putting one of these structures in place. So let's dive into this. One quick thing before we do, I want to mention a couple of things. I have a couple of announcements. I mentioned them at the end of last week's podcast. If you're listening to this on the podcast player when this is uploaded, if you're watching this in The Wealthy Entrepreneur, I haven't quite mentioned them yet, but you're getting early news. So where do I want to start? First and foremost, I've gotten a lot of questions about starting a podcast. A lot of people have, been mentioning their interest. And if you do not know, I have a completely free tutorial. It's actually just on my blog, and it is how to start a podcast on the cheap. And I threw that up there a couple of years ago and have been updating it as things have been changing in the podcasting world. And people have, found it, stumbled upon it, and read it. And the only reason why I'm making this known is because I continually see the comments at the bottom, which are people being like, this is the most thorough and well-explained kind of step-by-step tutorial and guide I have ever read. And I've been reading bunch of blog posts and things to try to figure out how to start a podcast. And this is the one that makes sense to me and really helps me walk through it. And so, not a brag, but I guess a humble brag, apparently my podcast guide is really good and it's free and it's going to walk you through exactly what you need to do to start your podcast. Like a lot of the technical things you might not think of, and all of that jazz. So go to my blog, wanderwealthy.com, and type in how to start a podcast on the cheap, or just Google Wander Wealthy, how to start a podcast on the cheap. You'll find the article. I'm also going to link it. So I'll link it in the description of this episode as well as in the show notes. So you'll definitely be able to find it. But head over there. I have linked up all of the resources, all of my favorite podcasting tools, which are not overly fancy. I find that actually there's a cheaper microphone than a lot of the ones that people use that is way better quality. It's the one I'm using right now. It's like a $70-something microphone instead of a $300 microphone. And the quality is just as good as some of those $300,000, $500,000, $1,000 microphones. In addition to that, I share my code to get a great discount, introductory discount with my media host, Libsyn, which is like one of the oldest in the game. They're celebrating 15 years of podcasting this year. And if you use code Tess when you go to libsyn.com and sign up, you'll get the rest of this month and the entire following month for free, as long as you sign up after like the first of the month. So if you sign up, let's see, this podcast is going live the end of November. So you won't get much. So I would wait until like December 2nd, sign up, get the rest of December and all of January for free. And then what I would do if I were you is get the higher priced tier because it's free. So like go big, get the higher priced tier. And then right when you're going to finally get charged, so in this scenario, it'd be February, I would then reduce it if you want to reduce it. So they have a $5 plan plus $2 for statistics. I'm on the $20 plan. So I get like bonus statistics plus enough space for my podcast. And it's just awesome. So just go to my How to Start a Podcast on the Cheap blog post. I walk you through everything. Use code Tess if you're signing up for Libsyn, which I definitely recommend. There's a ton of other great resources on there. And yeah, people have just really loved it. And I don't have like a lot of blog traffic, so most people don't even know that I have some things like that. So just wanted to throw that out there for you. Okay, I'm going to make this quick because I know this is like the longest intro in the world, but 2 other announcements. One, next month, starting December 12th, is when I'm going to start doing the 12 days of money mindset. So there's going to be 12 days in a row of podcast episodes. They're going to be much shorter than this, I promise, but they're just going to be quick, digestible tips, strategies, things to do to work on your money mindset. So you'll be learning a lot about money mindset. I'm going to share with you a lot of the stuff that I've been learning in my certification process and all the tips and tricks that I use with a lot of my clients when we do money mindset coaching. So that's going to be for 12 days straight from December 12th to the 24th. So look forward to that. If you're listening to the podcast, subscribe. I don't think I will be doing live recordings inside The Wealthy Entrepreneur because I need to like get this done. And, it's just hard to keep up with that so that I can get them uploaded and whatnot, but it's fine. You guys still get a lot of benefits from being in the group, so it's okay. And that will eventually lead to, we're going to be doing a really fun live training in early January, starting like the 6th of January. In addition, during the 6th of January, yes, this week is going to be super crazy insane for me, but starting the 6th of January, we are doing another payday party workshop. If you've been around, you know a little bit about these, but people have been loving these workshops. They're really giving them a new perspective on how to set their business financial goals, on how to understand the cash flow of their business, as well as like how that flows into their personal lives, how to make taxes less scary for them, how to just start thinking about their money in a more healthy way. And we do so many great things in this workshop, and it's all jam-packed. Most of the content is jam-packed into a week. It's going to be a 2-week process. So you'll get access to 2 weeks, and I'm actually splitting it up into tiers. So if you just want to do like the learning method, it's going to be a 2-week thing where the first week is all the content, and then you have the second week to implement plus some bonuses. Then you can go into an implementation tier if you want to, and you'll get an additional implementation week where you can email with me back and forth, unlimited, and some live, Q&A call. One live Q&A call. And then there's a transformation tier where we get to work together. We'll do a 60-minute call with me. It's everything that's involved in the other 2 tiers, and it's just going to really help you transform your money mindset, plus set some really great tangible financial goals for 2020. So it's happening right at the start of 2020. We're going to get those in place and start making plans and then act on those plans so you can make sure that you are properly planning, you have the right mindset, and then you can get after it. So that's all going to be happening over the course of the next month. If you're not on my email list, get on the email list, because that's the way that you will be the first to know about all these things. So go to wanderwealthy.com/roadmap to download my Easy Profit Roadmap. You can go through the steps that I take my clients through to set up the Easy Profit system, calculate a version of your revenue goal that feels good for you, and then utilize that as a starting point in the Payday Party workshop. And to get on the guest list for the workshop, you can go to wanderwealthy.com/party. Otherwise, if you download the roadmap, you will get, it'll take you to that step. So don't worry about that. But if you get on the list, then you'll be the first to know about all the other fun things that we have going on. There's one more thing. Oh, you guys, this is much longer than I thought it was going to be, but there is one more thing. It is that today, there is an amazing, really special price. It's a Black Friday deal happening the week before Black Friday because family and friends are very meaningful to me. So today, if you are listening to this from your podcast player, you wealthy entrepreneur people, again, you're finding out about this very early. But on November 24th, today, there's a Black Friday deal on the Invested program. The Invested program is the program that I wish I would have had when I started my investing journey. And even years into my investing journey, I wish I would have had, because as an investor, I was investing. I had my 401k. I didn't even have an IRA. I had some sort of other investment vehicle, and I really didn't quite know if I was doing it right. And this is from someone who went to school and was the person that all the guys in my portfolio investing class wanted on their team, probably because I just would go and ask the professor all the questions. But I had this education and I still didn't know how to apply it to my personal life and my own personal investment strategy. And so I took those experiences, I took my knowledge, but additional research that I did to really understand investing. Finally, when I decided I need to figure this out, and I took that and I put it into a course. So if you want to make 2020 the year where you start getting invested for the first time, or maybe you've been investing, but you just feel like you're doing it, but you don't really know if it's the right thing to do or if it makes sense for your life, then I highly, highly encourage you to get inside the Invested program. You guys, I'm giving you a 40% discount. 40%. That is I think if you do the payment plan, and I should have calculated this, but I think it's $60 a month if you do 3 monthly payments. If you don't do the payment plan, it's under $180. And this is going to be the investment that changes your life. Because once you go through this program, you're going to feel so much more confident and in control of your investments and what's going on. And if you selected the right thing, you get access to me inside of a private Facebook group, and you can ask me any questions you want. You can send me messages and we can talk about investing. It's my favorite topic. So I'll do it all day. And you're going to get 40% off. I walk you step by step through. We start from the very beginning. If you're not a beginner, that's okay. There's a lot of great, and most of it is intermediate investing stuff. I just need to ramp up the beginners, and that's important to me. And there's so much more additional download worksheets, bonus videos, all of that stuff, which that's not important. What I want you to see is the transformation you can get from this program. And it's going from, I don't really know what I'm doing. I have no strategy. I'm, a little bit concerned or confused when it comes to investing. Even if you are a self-employed person, you don't have your own 401k through your employer, but you probably have an IRA or a SEP IRA or a Roth IRA or just an investment account for taxable investing. And if you don't know what these things mean, we talk about it in the program, so don't worry. But imagine feeling like you get it, like you totally understand investing. You know how to apply the strategy. You know how to personalize a strategy for you, your age, your life goals. You know how to invest for a house that you want to buy in 7 years. You know how to invest for retirement. You understand how it's going to work when you are 10 years and 5 years away from retiring. You finally can stop worrying that every move that you're making is the wrong move, because I know how that feels. And I no longer think about that. All I think about now is how can I invest more money as soon as possible? Because I'm still young and I want to take advantage of all that time. So I want to get you to that other side too, and really feeling like I am an investor. I know what I'm doing and I am excited. I'm building wealth. I'm a wealthy woman. I want to get you there. So we can do that together in the Invested program. There's a 40% off code starting November 21st through the 25th. So it's a week before Thanksgiving. So think of it as Thursday, the week before, through what would be Cyber Monday, but it's the week before. And I'm doing this because during Black Friday, I'm going to be traveling. And so I won't be able to be present and be able to answer your questions, as well as that's family time. Go spend it with your family. Don't worry about getting the killer deal. I'm giving you the killer deal the week before. So anyway, in addition, I am in town right now as you are listening to this. So if you need to reach out to me and ask me questions about the program, you can send me an email, tess@wonderwealthy.com, or hit me up on Instagram. That's the quickest way to get at me. And I am at Tess_Wicks. Send me a DM. Even a voice message, which maybe that's weird for you. It's not weird for me because I do it all the time, but you can literally just reach out and, tell me, hey, do you think this is right for me? Blah, blah, blah. It's all good. Okay, now we got to make the rest of this episode rapid fire, but it's going to be good. This is pretty quick and to the point stuff. We're going to be talking about different business structures and why you might choose one over the other. Quick side note, this is only applicable to those who are in the US. I don't know structures of other countries. I apologize. But if you are in the US, this is what you want to know. So the 3 different structures we're going to be talking about today is sole proprietorship, LLC, and S Corp. And those are just because it's the most likely, if you are a small business owner, what you're going to be. So a sole proprietorship is what you most likely defaulted into if you didn't immediately file your articles of organization for an LLC or set up your S Corp. It's basically just a sole proprietorship is you are doing business under your own name. And there's no separation between the owner of the business and your personal assets and your business assets. They're all lumped together. So if I was a sole proprietorship, Tess Wicks would be my business. And there's no reason, you can separate your business income and expenses from your personal income and expenses in 2 different bank accounts, but from a tax perspective, they look at me all as one. And from a legal perspective, they look at you all as one. So the advantage to a sole proprietorship is that it's super easy. You don't have to do anything to establish yourself as a sole proprietor. And it's cheap because it costs $0 to establish yourself as a sole proprietor. So no paperwork involved, nothing. But there are some disadvantages of this. And that is that if someone sues you, they can go after your personal savings, your personal property, in addition to your business stuff. Because from a tax perspective and a legal perspective, you are doing business as yourself. And so whatever is to your name, that's what they can get, which is unfortunate. Now, that is important because if someone sues you personally, they can get after your business stuff. If someone sues you for business reasons, they can get after your personal stuff. So it is important to try to separate that. And that's what you would do with an LLC. But we're not going to go there quite yet. We're going to stay on sole proprietorship. Some people are, semi-okay, other than like if you have a lot of business assets and someone sues you personally, like that wouldn't be good. But from a business perspective, there are, some professions where your likelihood of being sued is not huge. Like if you're not a sole proprietor, freelancer, medical doctor, or a lawyer, or a financial advisor, anything where, so like you are doing something where someone could be like, oh my gosh, you've hurt me. A lot of like physical products, if they are dangerous to use, then obviously you're opening yourself up to that type of liability. Then maybe you'd want to draw a line. But like if you're a freelance writer, as long as there's not any, potential that you could be sued for writing something that is illegal, or people are coming after you for like being mean about their character, or saying something completely wrong about like the business that you're writing for. Obviously, that could be a problem, but for the most part, a freelance writer might be fine. If you're making, crafts on Etsy and the craft isn't going to hurt anyone, or selling digital products, for the most part, you're probably fine from a legal standpoint. So don't like go and freak out right now because of that, like especially when we hear the word like, oh my gosh, I could be sued and they can come after my personal property. You're most likely fine. But of course, you do want to talk to your attorney, talk to professionals, and get their perspective as well. So in a lot of ways, sole proprietorships are great for people who have hobby side businesses. They're not maybe making that much money. So it's not like they have a ton of business assets to come after if they are sued personally, but also, they're selling crafts on Etsy, or they have kind of like a side coaching business or something. You're probably fine in that way. Now, when you are a sole proprietor, you don't have to file taxes separately because you are just taxed as one main entity. Your business income and expenses are reported on your personal tax return. You can still write off expenses against your business, but also any other income that you make is also reported on your personal tax return. And you'll pay similar taxes to how you're taxed usually anyway, from like if you have an employer. The important thing to note is that any income coming in through your sole proprietorship, like side business, Etsy, anything you're doing that isn't through a W-2 paycheck, you will have to pay self-employment tax. Self-employment tax, a quick little explainer, self-employment tax is basically FICA taxes for people who are self-employed. So that's covering Social Security and Medicare. It's usually 15.3%, but there is a cap. Like if you make a ton of money, there is a cap on how much you have to contribute to Social Security based on your income. When you are employed, when you have an employer, they pay half of that and you pay half of that. So as a self-employed person, it does feel like maybe you're paying more in taxes, but usually you can write off the like half of the self-employment tax against your personal income when it comes to personal income taxes. So you have to pay self-employment taxes, which is always just something, we already pay it when we are traditionally employed, but you're paying half of it because your employer takes care of the other half. But it's a bump up there. And you also have to pay your federal and state income taxes if you have state income taxes. So you are responsible for withholding for all of that. Whereas if you're employed, you don't have to worry about that. And this goes down the line if you are a sole proprietor or an S Corp even. You have to, you're going to be paying, most likely you have payroll, but we'll get to that. But also if you're an LLC, you are responsible for saving up and paying your quarterly tax estimates as well as end of year taxes. And that is made up by self-employment tax, federal income tax, and state income tax. Okay. So that is really important to note, is that as a sole proprietor, you have to make sure you're saving up for the taxes on your own because no taxes are being withheld by anyone, and pay those quarterly. The other thing that is important, and I've talked about this and, mentioned it slightly in previous episodes, specifically the conversation about whether you need a business bank account or not. So go listen to that episode. I can't remember the number, but it was a few weeks ago. I talk about needing an EIN, which is an employer identification number or a federal tax ID. It's the same. And you would set this up as a business. Now, you can set it up as a sole proprietorship. You can set up an EIN and it's free. You just have to go through the irs.gov. They have like a EIN assistant tool, and I will link to it in the show notes of this episode, wonderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 134 to get to the show notes. But they have an EIN assistant tool, and you just have to fill out an application, and then they will generate an EIN for you. Now, I do think if you are planning to get an LLC in place, I would wait to establish the EIN until then. And that is because you want to, put the EIN with your business name. When you're a sole proprietor, like you are your business, so you're fine. Now, the reason you might consider getting an EIN is because most business bank accounts, if you want to set up a business bank account, which again, you don't have to, especially as a sole proprietor, your tax the same, all your income and your expenses, they're all the same. Like you can separate it because usually, you can write off your business, a lot of your business expenses against your income. But from the baseline, you could just have a personal bank account, a secondary personal bank account where you use your social security number to open it up, but you claim it as like, this is, okay, thinking in my brain, this is a business bank account, even though it is personal. So that's fine. But if you want to go that extra step and set up a business bank account that is legitimately considered a business bank account, most businesses require you to have an EIN, a tax ID number. And so as a sole proprietor, you can go set that up and then use that to apply for your business bank account. Now, some business bank accounts also require you to have articles of organization, which is something that you set up when you are filing your LLC. So that's something that you just want to check. Apparently, there are business bank accounts where you can use your own social security number to set it up, and that's fine. Some other benefits of having an EIN is if you're going to get employees and you want to just like protect yourself from identity theft, which is such a shame. I'm learning in Italy that they don't really deal with that because they're like quote unquote tax ID numbers, they're personal ones. You could literally guess it. Like I have one now and you can guess what mine is because it's based off of like your name and where you were born, and it's just not a problem. They don't have this identity theft issue. Anyway, I digress. An EIN is really great to have for like identity protection and if you want to establish a business bank account. Okay, the last thing about sole proprietors is how you pay yourself. And how you are taxed, which we already talked about that. You have to pay self-employment tax as well as income taxes. But how you pay yourself, essentially, like you don't pay yourself because all of your business income is technically your income. Now, if you have a separate bank account that you do the business bookkeeping through, and that's your organization system, then you would pay yourself by transferring money from that business bank account into your personal account. And that's considered a draw. So it's an owner's draw, and it's actually an equity distribution, which I'm sorry if that's like, oh my God, stop using these words. I don't understand. But it goes on to, actually, I don't even know if it goes on your balance sheet. It might, I think it does. But it doesn't show up on your income statement. So it's not like showing up as an expense. Your income statement is your income minus your operating expenses. This isn't an expense because really from a tax perspective, you're just taking money from one account and moving it to another, and they're both under your name because you're a sole proprietor. So it's just a draw from your business bank to your personal bank. So you can literally just go in and transfer the money, and then in the bookkeeping, you're putting it as an equity distribution. Usually it's like they already have these usually set up as like owner's equity distribution or owner's equity draw, but this is something that you'd want to, talk to your bookkeeper about, talk to your accountant about, make sure you can get that in place. Okay, that should be it in terms of sole proprietorship. Now, the next level up is an LLC. This is a limited liability company. And really the only difference between an LLC and a sole proprietorship is that you get legal protection. So this can help you legally draw a line between personal assets, your savings, your property, and business assets. And that way, if someone sues you, then you have protection in place. So this was important for me to have. I'm a coach. I don't think I'm easy to sue, and I don't think that would happen, but you always want to protect for the best. This is insurance protecting you against the worst disaster that could possibly happen. And so it was important for me to have that line because I have a home and I have savings and I have investments on a personal level, and then I have money in my business bank account, and I want to protect both of those. So that's really important for me. So putting an LLC in place is really important. From a tax standpoint, you are pretty much taxed the same as a sole proprietorship. So you might have like a separate legal entity, but the federal tax laws don't see you any different from like me as Tess Wicks versus me as the LLC I have set up, which is not Wander Wealthy LLC, surprisingly. And that's a big thing too. If you like set up your LLC, you have to pick a name. It can't be already taken by another LLC in the state that you're operating in, I believe. So don't get super wrapped up in like my LLC name has to be my brand name. You can be Wander Wealthy and operate under a different LLC name. It's totally fine. I do it. No one sees my LLC name unless we're passing around like partnership agreements, and then it's like, oh, Wander Wealthy is a brand owned by Creative Profit. So just a side note, don't get too obsessed with the name. But what is important is when you file for your LLC, you have to pick a name that fits it. And so that is something that, you need to make sure the name isn't taken. And this is why it's fine. I think it's fine if you set up your LLC and then once you get approved and it's signed off, then you go and you get your EIN number. You also don't need to get an EIN number. You can have your LLC and still bank through a separate personal bank account, or maybe find a business account that'll let you set up with your social security number. But I do think it's helpful to have an EIN number because some banks will require you to have that number as well as your articles of organization from your LLC. So this was something I wanted to get to that next level. I wanted to set up my business bank account. And so I needed to file my LLC in Illinois and get my EIN number, which I realize I'm saying employer identification number. I apologize. But I needed to get those two things so that I could apply for my business bank account. When you file an LLC, there is some paperwork. You definitely don't need some like attorney to set it up. At least from my experience, I did mine in Illinois. I just went through I think CyberDrive, Illinois, because they have a weird website. But the website that is for businesses in Illinois, I went there. I just Googled how to set up an LLC in Illinois and went through the steps. The only thing is it costs $500 in Illinois. In New York, I think it costs $200. Indiana, it's $90. I think in Iowa, it's $50, but maybe it's changed. So different states charge a different amount. It's unfortunate that in Illinois is $500, but for me, that was just the cost of doing business. A lot of people are like, oh, get your EIN so you can have your business bank, so then you can pay your LLC out of your business. Don't worry about that, which comes first. Just get your EIN and your LLC. Doesn't matter that you have to pay for the LLC through your personal income. You can always make a adjustment in your bookkeeping that says, I paid $500 out of personal money to file the LLC, and that's still a business expense. But yeah, that's pretty much it for an LLC. You're still taxed the same. If you have, like I said, a business bank account or a personal bank account, wearing a business bank account outfit, then you can always go in, transfer the money. It's going to be an owner's draw. It's not showing on your income statement. So from a tax perspective, you're not technically moving money. You are just physically going, okay, it's in this pot that's under my name and my LLC name and my EIN name, and it's moving to this pot because the tax people, the feds, don't look at your LLC as different. In this situation, this is mostly for people who are single member LLCs and whatnot. So that's really important because I think it takes you up a level to go, okay, I'm going to get that legal protection in place. I want a business bank account, and the only ones I can find, I'm required to have articles of organization. Maybe you just want to look a little more professional. It can be purely for looks in some cases. And so that could be a benefit. Plus all the things that I talk about in the episode about should you open a business bank account. The last thing is an S Corp, which is short for S Corporation. I should know what S stands for. I don't think, maybe it doesn't stand for anything. But this is the most difficult and expensive business structure to set up, but it can be very beneficial from a tax perspective. So from a tax perspective, unlike a sole proprietorship or an LLC, S Corps don't pay taxes on all of the revenue that the business makes. So as a sole proprietor and an LLC, you make revenue. Sorry, you don't pay taxes on your revenue. You make money and then you have expenses. And then the income, which is like, well, your personal income is the same as the net profit of the business. So you're paying taxes on that. An S Corp, they make revenue, then they have expenses. And then you as the owner, but also the operator, if you're a full-time employee in your business, you have to pay yourself a salary. So you have to run payroll, you have to do payroll taxes. So you're going back from the self-employment tax to FICA and paying, half. You're still paying it because you're the employer, but you pay half from the business and then half on your own withholding taxes. You have to withhold the taxes from your paycheck, but then you make money. And that's the only place where you pay these quote unquote self-employment taxes is when you actually issue yourself money. However, you might be like, okay, well, I'll be an S Corp, but then I'll never pay myself and I'll just distribute money to myself, but not in the form of payroll. It's required that if you are running and working in your business, you have to pay yourself a reasonable salary. And so a reason to not set up an S Corp quite yet is if you're making $70,000 a year in your business, and then whatever's left over, let's say you spend $20,000 and then you have $50,000 left over and you're taking that home as pay because that's how much you need to pay yourself, then you wouldn't really need to set up an S Corp because you're not going to save any money that way. But if you're making, let's say $100,000 and you spend $20,000 and you only pay yourself $50,000, then there's $20,000 left in profit that can stay in the business that's not going to be susceptible to paying your self-employment /FICA taxes because that's not getting paid out to anyone. So just the $50,000 that you're paying yourself is. So that's a way where you can save. But you can see why you would want to wait until you're really making considerably more and almost profiting more than what you would really pay yourself. And that's where you would consider, okay, it's worth it for me to invest in, having my accountant and my attorney help me get this set up and filing this away with the government and doing all of that. And there's obviously more work involved in the tax prep of your S Corp, depending on how complex it is, but usually it takes more time. I'm not sure what the costs are to get it set up. An LLC in Illinois is $500. I don't know what it is for an S Corp or if that matters, but there is obviously tax benefits here because you're not going to pay self-employment tax on all of the profit that you end up making, which is kind of not saying this correctly because it's not always then profit, but I digress. I hope that makes sense for you. So a sole proprietorship could be just fine for you. An LLC might be the next step so you can protect yourself legally. You can finally get a business bank account set up if you haven't been able to in the past. And an S Corp might be that official, end goal for when you are making a shit ton of money. And then you can pay yourself a salary and you can also give yourself disbursements. I haven't been able to find whether you have to pay self-employment tax on the disbursements or not, but I'm going to leave that up to your accountant and your tax professional to advise you appropriately on that because, there's reasons to be in either of them. So I hope that this was informative. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I try to alternate between more mindset episodes focusing on your personal and business growth, and then some really helpful, tangible, I'm so glad I listened to that. I feel like I got a lot out of that, and now I can sleep at night not worrying about if I should do this or not. It's not hard to get these balls rolling. Find a professional if you want to, work with someone to do it. But in terms of me, I set up my LLC and my business bank account all on my own, and I just followed these steps. And I will link some really helpful resources in the show notes at wanderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 134, because if this is paralyzing you from taking steps forward, it doesn't need to be. So go get those resources, get the ball rolling, get it started. Or maybe this is an episode that's helped you just feel like, oh, I'm doing things right. I feel good about it. there I go. I can move on now. So let me know what you think. If you have any questions, I can help to the extent that I can, and check out the show notes. And don't forget all of the amazing updates that I shared. Don't forget about the invested program discount. I don't even think I mentioned the website to go to. So if you are interested in taking the invested program to get yourself into 2020 investing like the wealthy woman you are, go to wanderwealthy.com/invested. But of course, everything will be linked up in the show notes. Until next time, my friends, I hope you all wander wealthy.